So how do you get business in your farm? Well, it's a combination of things. It's a combination of digital, print, and good old-fashioned shoe leather, knocking on doors and talking to people. And to be really effective, as I said to you a little earlier, it really helps if you're knocking on doors in your own neighborhood. You know, when we show up and we knock on somebody's door and we've never met them or they've never met us, it's normal for people to be suspicious. So if you happen to be one of the neighbors, and that's how you introduce yourself when you knock on the door and the person comes to the door and you say, hey, it's Chris from Leader Realty. I'm one of your neighbors. I live down the street or around the corner. Let me tell you why I'm here. Immediately their defenses come down because they see you as a neighbor, as part of the neighborhood. Oh, and the other thing I'd recommend is when you're outdoor knocking, make sure you're wearing some career apparel and you've got your name badge on. It adds credibility and makes the conversation carry on a little bit smoother. I also like the idea of getting some marketing pieces out. I'd prefer to have marketing pieces go out first and then come in behind it and say, did you get my postcard last week that I sent out? Or did you see my market report or my newsletter? It's kind of an icebreaker. So it adds credibility again, and I think it makes the conversation just feel a little bit easier. Now, if you happen to be at somebody's door and they haven't got the market report, and you might want to ask them, would you like to be kept up to date on things that are going on in the neighborhood in terms of real estate? I mean, we all have a big investment in our house, and it would be great to know what the neighbors did sell for. Even when you're not moving, I think it's great information. Would you like me to put you down for a market report? They come out every 3 months, and then the next thing you're collecting contact information, and the next time they see you outdoor knocking or doing your just listeds, just solds, open house invitations, you know, I always say that how do you turn strangers into friends? Through constant contact. The more often they see you, the more they start to recognize you. When it first starts out, they'll say, hey, there's that real estate guy. But the more often they see you, they'll say, there's our real estate guy. And that slight change in their wording means that they're feeling a stronger connection towards you. When you're outdoor knocking, I think that you should plan to get out at least once every 3 months in your farm and reconnect with people. And that's going to be in between your postcards or your newsletter or your market report. And we always give out cheaper keepers in real estate. It's those little things that we drop off. It gives us an excuse to be at the door. Sometimes in January it's a calendar, and sometimes in the fall it's leaf bags with our names on it to clean up. You know, sometimes it's dropping a little something over in the summertime. We used to do, and we don't do these anymore, but we used to do forget-me-not seeds with our business card attached to them in the spring, and we drop them off at everybody's house, and they always thought that was so kind. But the real point was I was looking for a reason to knock on somebody's door, give them something. Now, let me just share another sales technique with you. When you give people things, they feel a responsibility to do something for you. It's called the law of reciprocity. So part of sales is when you give somebody something, like something as simple, for instance, if you were to go to a car dealership and he offers you a cup of coffee, he knows when he gives you that cup of coffee, that should buy him some of your attention. See, it's an exchange. So when you give somebody something, say, hey, here's my leaf bags this fall to help everybody get their yards tidied up. People feel a connection to you, a responsibility to you. And the next time they see you, you're going to get that warm wave that we get as neighbors. Now, if you're not quite sure what to say, the good news is we got the right words for you. Often I hear from people in my classes and they'll say, I would go door knocking, but I don't know what to say. And I say, well, I've got some good news for you because we got the scripts, we got the words, so there's no excuses. I need you to get out and talk to people in your neighborhood. The other thing I would tell you is don't get so hung up on making the words perfect. You know, the attempt will get you further than the technique. I'll tell you what really works. Work works. So if you go to the door, you ring the door, you introduce yourself. Now, probably the first 10 times you do it, you're going to stumble over your words. You're going to think, oh my gosh, I sound awful. I can't believe anybody would buy a house from me. But the more often you do something, practice, drill, and rehearse, the better we get at it. And soon you're sounding poetic at the door, and people are looking forward to having a real estate conversation with you about the neighbor's house that's sold and how much did they get for it and what did you think of that price. Now, in terms of looking for ways to create stronger relationships in our farm, what I've seen people do in some neighborhoods is do a block party. Now, when I talk about a block party, I think particularly about one of my brothers who lives on the other side of town, and his neighborhood has done a block party every year. And they do a really amazing job. They get a permit for it. They have jumpy castles for the kids. Everybody's got their barbecues out. Everybody's walking around with koozie cups and cold beers and drinks, and everybody's talking. And I've gone to visit with him during that block party. And I've looked around and I thought to myself, what a wonderful neighborhood. Look at all the parents. Look at all the kids feeling like they can just run and have fun and really enjoy themselves. And I thought to myself, as a real estate professional, if I was selling houses, this would be a perfect event to support. This would give me a chance as the local realtor living in that neighborhood to connect with everybody. I'd have my golf shirt, but it'd have my company name on it and my tag and maybe my ball cap. And I wouldn't necessarily go around and say, hey, real estate, real estate, real estate. But just talking to the neighbors about neighborly stuff, it's normal for them to ask you about real estate. And of course, that message that says, hey, I'm in real estate without asking doesn't hurt either, right? So what I'm going to say is block parties are a good idea. Now, if you're going to do one and you're going to block off the street and you're going to get a local band to play music and the kids are going to be riding their bikes and all of that, you better go to the town and get a permit. Otherwise, you're going to have some other issues on your hands. But I've seen it done and done really well. Another thing I'd recommend is a spring garage sale for your neighborhood. Now you got to set this up right. So remember I talked to you about postcards. So what I do is put out a postcard telling everybody we're going to have a garage sale. And then I'd make a point of even going around and knocking on doors and saying a week Saturday we're going to have this garage sale. I'm putting out all the signs. And all you guys got to do is, and I'm going to be advertising and I'll put all the signage out for everybody. But all you got to do is if you got any junk you want to get rid of it, let's put some tables at the end of the driveway and we can sell off some stuff. But more importantly, I think it would be a great chance for us as neighbors to get to know each other. And when it's all over at 1 o'clock, I'd like to invite everybody back for a hot dog and a cold beer at my place. Just a chance to have a laugh about some of the stuff we sold. And I think it would be great. Keep in mind, I'm door knocking with my name tag on that says I'm in real estate. Ask me how much your home is worth. So again, I think the garage sale idea is really good. Now, don't misunderstand this. This isn't about doing a garage sale. This is about building relationships with people in your community and doing things that they would want to get involved with. So I'm not here to be the king of the garage sale. What I'm here to do is have an opportunity to talk to my neighbors in a very unsolicited, very relaxed environment and allow the conversation to turn to real estate naturally. Another idea I've seen done is food drives. And we have a few times throughout the year that it's important to help the local food bank. We've got things like Easter, we've got Thanksgiving, we've got maybe Christmas. These are all dates that put a lot of stress on families in our towns and our cities. So what I would do again is I'm looking to do really good work. I'm looking to support, people who are having a hard time in the community. I'd send out a postcard in a month in advance saying I'll be coming around to pick up food donations, local real estate professional food donations. And then what I would do is knock on everybody's door and I'd say, look, I have these bags I'm dropping off. I'm picking up for the food bank. Maybe you got my postcard. I'm your neighbor. I'll be back next Saturday to pick something up. And then I'm going to go around with my truck and I'm going to pick up all these bags and everybody, and that way people, oh yeah, that's right. I got that bag. We put some cans in and next thing you know, your truck's full. Now, when you get down to the food bank, you're doing good work here and you're helping out a lot of people. And I want you to know it's not just you. Your neighbors have made a contribution to this. And I think that they should get notoriety for that. So I would call the local newspaper and I would say, I'm dropping into the food bank. I'm going to be there on Saturday afternoon. And our neighborhood raised a whole lot of stuff. And of course, they'll come down and take photos and all of that's good PR for you. And it also reflects really positively against your community, your neighborhood. And you got to know there are other people in other places that are reading that and thinking, that's the kind of neighborhood I'd like to live in. So you're getting recognized as an expert. You're doing good work and people are seeing you locally making a contribution. They can't ignore the fact you're in real estate. I mean, it says basically, you want to know real estate, talk to me. It says on the back of my shirt, list with Chris, that sort of thing. My ball cap on with my company logo and all of that. But I don't have to tell people, I don't even have to talk about real estate. They're going to talk to me about it. I've seen this done in the summer where somebody will rent an ice cream truck. And if you look around, you can get some antique, good humor ice cream trucks. They're really, really cool. And what I would do is put out a postcard the month before saying, Saturday, July the 15th, I'm giving out free popsicles to all the kids. And I'm going to tell you when the good humor truck shows up and you're leading the charge out there with your career apparel on, you're going to be giving out popsicles. It's going to be like you're in a parade. There will be a pile of kids chasing you behind the truck and everybody's going to know you in the neighborhood because you do cool, fun things for everybody and they're going to recognize that. Now, what happens here? I would actually be embarrassed if I lived in that neighborhood and I went to sell my house and I didn't call you. Because you put so much back into the community. Remember the law of reciprocity. What you give away, you get back 10 times. So do good work, do good things, go out of your way, and you're going to find that a lot of people are going to come in search of an agent with the quality of your character, with the contributions you're making to the community. And at the same time, you're there and it says, I'm real estate. Now, you probably have buildings around you, rental buildings, high-rise buildings that are, close proximity even to your farm. And I always liked selling first-time home buyers. I really liked them. I always felt like I had to protect them. And when I was young and I got into real estate, I was only 18, 19. They were sort of the demographic that I gravitated to, because as far as I could tell, they were the only people who knew less than real estate than me. So of course I could put my swagger on and lead them to go look at houses, and I felt really confident and I was in my zone. You know, I was just hitting my stride. But what I would do with your renters is I would come up with a campaign to market into those high rises. Basically, the underlying message is, why are you building equity in the landlord's why are you paying the landlord's mortgage when you could be building equity in your future? Find out what it's like to get a piece of the American dream. Why not own your own home? And then what I would do is send those out, and then I would call. And of course, you got to be call compliant. You got to be thoughtful about the do not call list, but I'd call everybody I could. But on top of that, I might even go as far, and I used to do these all the time, do a first-time home buyer seminar, and I would mail into the apartment buildings, and then I would invite them to a first-time home buyers workshop where I would have a mortgage person and mortgage person, a home inspector, title, or a lawyer there, and we do a whole evening on it, and I would collect all kinds of people's names, and then I get the mortgage person to pre-qualify them so that they were actually qualified to buy a house, and then I'd call, and next thing you know, I was showing houses to people and writing offers, and I'd often get a lot of buyers from them, and people felt a really strong connection because of that. The other thing I'd recommend is that in your neighborhood, if there's somebody who hasn't been looking after their house, don't avoid it. I mean, I first want to tell you, everything sells if it's priced right. So it all comes down to price. I don't care how bad it is. I don't care if the house has got wheels on it. It doesn't make any difference. If it's priced properly, there's a buyer for everything. And if I had more time, I could tell you stories that you would be just busting a gut laughing at on the different things that I've sold and the different situations I've got myself into. But think of it this way. The person who isn't looking after the house is really affecting the overall neighborhood. So I would ring their doorbell. You know, often you see a house and the guy's, got the wheels off his car, and there's oil in the driveway, and the screen door is broken, and there's a window missing in the house, So you ring the doorbell, and a couple of things is going on. One of two things is going to happen. You ask the person, do they want to sell? And they're going to say, I don't own this house. Now, if they don't own this house and they're renting it, then you should find out who the landlord is, because lo and behold, I bet you if you call that landlord and say, do you want to sell that house? They're going to say, absolutely we do, because that thing is an eyesore and I can't get the tenants to look after it. So they might want to just get rid of it, and while you're talking to them, they may want to buy some more stuff. So don't forget to have that conversation with them. On the other hand, if you talk to the person when you knock on their door and they own the house and they say, I'm not leaving, I love this house. And you're thinking, really? You sure doesn't look like the way you look after it, but that's okay. So you're not going anywhere. And I've had people even say to me, the only way I'm going out of here is in a box. The only way I'm going out of here is feet first. And I've always thought to myself, well, I could make that happen sooner than later. No, just kidding. That's not the reality. But what I am going to say to you is that when they say, no, I'm not going out of here, I'm not leaving, you have to know that this property has a negative impact on the neighbors. The neighbors are upset. They're upset because the neighborhood reflects how people feel about their houses, and it reflects poorly on theirs. So I'd knock on the neighbors' doors and ask them if they want to sell, particularly the fellow who lives across the road with the big picture window, who gets up every morning with his coffee and he looks across the street at this mess. He takes good care of his house and the neighbor isn't. So what do? I knock on people's doors and I ask them if they want to sell. What do they say to me? No, I don't want to sell. I want him to sell. And I say, well, I've already talked to him and he's not moving. So the only choice I can see here is that you might want to consider putting yours on the market. And I can tell you, you're going to get listings because people want to have a positive feeling about where they live. And if the neighbor's not looking after their house, they're not cutting the grass, they're not watering the lawn, they're fixing the car in the driveway, they won't repair the issues around their property, then yes, it does affect how people feel about their house. I would recommend that you do searches all the time for people who are advertising properties for rent in your area, landlords. And I would call them to find out if they would be interested in selling this particular property. So anytime you see an apartment for rent, a house for rent, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I see you're trying to rent that property. Have you ever thought about selling it? Now, a couple of things will happen. They might say, no, we really like this property. We've had it in our portfolio for 10 years. We expect to keep it a long time. My next question would be then, if I had another good deal come up on an investment property, should I call you? Now think about this. Who says to you, no, don't call me with any good deals? I don't want any good deals. They all say, even when they don't have any money, they'll say, call me if you got a good deal. The point I'm really looking for here, and I'm going to teach you something about sales, it's about relationships. So this guy or gal is going to be getting information on any properties that are coming up on a regular basis. And about once a week or once every 2 weeks, I'm going to take my phone and I'm going to actually call them and say, hey, have you been getting my stuff? Have you seen anything that's interesting? Let's talk about a couple of them. And next thing you know, they're going to be calling you and saying, no, it's not what you've sent me, but I have seen something. I'd like some information. Can you get me some stuff? Now you're writing an offer on another property. I want you to call the landlords and I want you to find out if they want to buy something else or if they want to sell something else. Now you are going to call somebody and they're going to say, you know what, I'm glad you called. I'm 82 years of age. I have 18 properties and I want to get rid of them and clean up my portfolio. And probably the last time I saw this happen, I was teaching a class in the San Francisco area around Berkeley University. And one of the ladies was going to quit real estate. She'd been in for 30 years. She's not quit. She's going to retire. And I did the presentation about getting excited about sales. And she thought, you know what? I'm going to do this guy's course for just one last hurrah. And she signed up for the course. She was an older woman. And anyways, like week 3, one of the tasks I gave her was she had to call all of the landlords and she had to call all of her past clients and she had to talk to people. Well, lo and behold, didn't she come across somebody that owned, I think it was 13 or 15 properties all around Berkeley University, and she listed all of them in that 1 week period. Oh my gosh, she was over the moon. I think she made more money that week than she made the entire previous year. And it was all because I got her to call people in the neighborhood who may have been flirting with the idea of selling. Listen, your farm is a great area. There's a lot of business there, but you got to get out and talk to people. You got to get recognized. You got to develop a reputation, and you got to be prepared to invest a little bit of money and have some patience.